A week ago, I was sitting in a glass-walled office downtown, signing documents that officially ended my marriage, when my phone vibrated across the desk. One buzz, then another, then a call. It was Aaron, my best friend since college. The same guy who once picked me up from a police station at 2 in the morning without asking a single question. "Dude," he said, not even saying hello. "You need to see this." A photo came through, then another, then a shaky video. It was my wife, or technically my soon-to-be ex. She was barefoot in the courtyard of my apartment building. In December, there were candles arranged in a wide circle, crystals laid out like chess pieces, and a glass jar sitting in the middle of it all. She was waving her hands toward the sky like she was directing traffic only she could see. I stared at the screen, not blinking. Across from me, my lawyer leaned in and squinted. "Is she performing some kind of ritual?" "She calls it manifesting," I said. "Depends on the week." Another text from Aaron popped up. "Building security is watching. Nobody knows what to do. Thought you should know." I zoomed in on the image. She was wearing the necklace, the one she bought online for nearly $100 that claimed to protect against negative forces. Apparently, divorce paperwork still got through. A few months ago, I had a marriage, in-laws, plans, a life that looked stable from the outside. Now I was watching my wife summon the universe while my attorney waited for me to initial page 4. So yeah, that's where things ended up. How it started is simpler. I'm 33. I work in finance for a medical supply company. Stable salary. Benefits. Boring on paper. My wife was 29 and taught yoga. Between classes and private sessions, she made enough to get by. We'd been together 6 years, married for 2. Before the wedding, I insisted on a prenup. Not because I didn't trust her, because I trusted reality. My father spent his career in legal support. His rule was simple. Feelings change, paperwork doesn't. The agreement covered infidelity, emotional or physical, and unauthorized financial transfers over a set amount. She signed without much resistance. Said she believed things would work out if the energy was right. At the time, she was normal, grounded. She liked yoga, meditation, had a few crystals on the dresser. Nothing extreme. That came later. About a year into the marriage, something shifted. Podcasts turned into daily rituals. Sage bundles replaced conversations. Any disagreement suddenly became about vibrations. Any boundary I set was labeled fear-based. If I questioned a charge on our card, I was blocking abundance. If I asked for accountability, I was disrupting alignment. If she messed up, it was the universe teaching me patience. I tried talking to her. Calmly. Told her I felt like spiritual language was being used to shut down real conversations. She smiled at me like I was a child and said, "You're just not ready to evolve yet." Then she burned sage around my side of the bed. Her family didn't help. Her older sister lived a picture-perfect life online. Designer bags, vacation reels, highlighted smiles. Their mother loved it. Shared everything. Commented hearts. Bragged to anyone who would listen. Compared to that, my life wasn't impressive enough. I wasn't flashy. I didn't have a title people paused over. And her mother made sure I knew it. Comments about our apartment. Questions about when we'd upgrade. Jokes about whether I planned to stay just an accountant forever. At one holiday, she gave her daughter a luxury watch and handed me a self-help book she'd already highlighted. Another time, she introduced me to a neighbor as her daughter's current husband. I laughed it off. Told myself it didn't matter. The week before Thanksgiving, my wife became distant. Talked nonstop about energy protection and tests of alignment. I came home early one evening and caught her on the phone, door shut. She ended the call the second I walked in. The next morning, her laptop was open on the kitchen table. Apartment listings. Studios. Cheap ones. Across town. I didn't say anything. Thanksgiving morning, we drove to her mother's place. And when the door opened, I saw him. Her ex. Sitting on the couch like he belonged there. And that was the moment everything started to fall apart. I froze in the doorway longer than I should have. Long enough for everyone in the living room to notice. Long enough for that tight, rehearsed smile to spread across my mother-in-law's face. He looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Legs crossed, drink in hand, laughing at something my wife's sister had just said. Like he hadn't detonated a bomb just by existing in that room. "What's he doing here?" I asked. My wife touched my arm immediately, fingers pressing like she was trying to anchor me. "Don't do this," she whispered. "Please don't make it weird." Her mother swept in before I could respond. gripping the ex's shoulder like a proud stage manager. "Relax," she said brightly. "We're not replacing you. It's just a reminder. You're not the only option." She laughed after saying it. Like it was clever. Like it was harmless. Something clicked in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder. The ex stood and offered his hand. "Good to see you," he said. "Hope you don't mind me stopping by." I didn't take it. "You knew about this?" I asked my wife. She sighed, already irritated. "I thought you'd be mature enough to handle it. It's just dinner." Just dinner. With her ex. At Thanksgiving. With no warning. Her sister appeared from the kitchen, draping an arm around him. "He just got promoted," she announced. "Big role. Regional oversight." He waved it off modestly. Too smoothly. "It's more strategic leadership now. Operations across multiple areas." Buzzwords. Nothing concrete. I noticed the watch on his wrist when he leaned forward. From across the room, it looked expensive. Up close, the face sat slightly crooked. The second hand ticked instead of gliding. A fake. Across the table, my brother-in-law avoided eye contact entirely. He looked like someone counting minutes in a hostage situation. We sat down for dinner. The seating wasn't accidental. Her mother at the head. The ex to her right. My wife next to him. Me on the other side. Everyone positioned like pieces on a board. About 15 minutes in, the question started. "So," her mother said, swirling her wine. "Still in the same role?" "I'm doing fine," I replied. "Steady work. Good benefits." "Steady," she repeated slowly. "Security is important for a woman." Her sister jumped in immediately. "Chris just got another promotion, didn't you?" My brother-in-law startled like he'd been called on in class. "Yeah, operations director." "That's the kind of growth that matters," their mother said. "Not just stability." He shrank back into his chair. The ex leaned forward, smiling sympathetically. Nothing wrong with holding the middle ground. Holding the middle. A polite way to say replaceable. Then the comments turned sharper. Property values. School ratings. Neighborhoods they'd never settle for. My wife went quiet beside me. Her mother reached over and patted her hand. "I just want to know you're taken care of. That you're not stuck." "I'm not stuck," my wife said weakly. The ex raised his glass slightly. "She knows I've always got her back." He used her nickname. Right in front of me. I looked at my wife. She didn't correct him. Didn't look up. Her mother smiled like she'd won something. Then she dropped the line she'd clearly been waiting to deliver. "He just bought a condo," she said, glancing at me. 3 bedrooms. City views. Doorman building. All on his own. She turned fully toward me. "When do you think you'll be able to provide something like that?" The ex lifted his hands like a peacemaker. "Everyone moves at their own pace. Some paces go further than others," her sister added, laughing. Something felt off. When asked where the condo was, the ex got vague. "Near downtown. Close to the park." No address. No floor. Just vibes. Later, when the check for sides came, he patted his pockets. "Wallet's in the car. I'll send it later." I waited for my wife to say something. Anything. She stared at her plate. Then came the toast. "To family," her mother said. "To success. To the lives we build. And to my daughter, who will always have choices." I set my fork down. "You know what's interesting?" I said calmly. "Not one of you has asked if she's happy." Silence. "You've talked about money, titles, neighborhoods. You brought her ex here like a measuring stick. And she sat here and let it happen." Her mother's smile hardened. "You're being dramatic." The ex nodded. "Honest feedback is healthy." "That's enough," my wife snapped. "You're embarrassing me." That was it. Her mother stood, humming, heading toward the kitchen for the turkey like this was all perfectly normal. "This was planned," I said. "You invited him to make me feel small." The ex stepped closer. I could smell cheap cologne and wine. "Maybe if you could handle competition, nobody would need reminders." He puffed up, chest out. "What are you going to do? Cry?" Then he crossed the line. "No wonder she's been talking to me again. She needs a real man." The room froze. My wife went pale. I stayed calm. "You finished?" I asked. He leaned closer. "You're a placeholder." "Always were." Then he swung. Bad form. Telegraphic. All arm. I slipped it and hit him once. Clean. Controlled. Muscle memory from years ago. He staggered backward, straight into her mother as she emerged carrying the turkey. The rest happened fast. Gravity did what gravity does. The platter went airborne. The bird burst. Gravy everywhere. Cranberry sauce splattered like a crime scene. Her mother went down in heels, covered in dinner. The ex collapsed beside her, groaning. The fake watch slid off his wrist and cracked in the mess. My brother-in-law laughed. A real laugh. The kind that's been trapped for years. My wife stood there, frozen. And that's when the screaming started. Her mother was the first to find her voice. "My dinner," she shrieked, sitting upright, hands slick with gravy. "You ruined everything." Stuffing slid off her shoulder and onto the hardwood. Cranberry sauce clung to her hairline like war paint. A drumstick was still tangled in her curls, and nobody said a word about it. The ex was on the floor next to her, clutching his jaw, eyes unfocused, trying to decide which decade he was in. The watch lay face down in a puddle of grease, cracked clean through. The illusion shattered along with it. "I don't care who started it," her mother screamed. "Call the police. Call them now." My wife fumbled for her phone. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me like she was waiting for something. For me to apologize, to explain, to undo reality. I didn't. She made the call. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. "Where do you think you're going?" her sister demanded. Gravy handprints were already blooming across her designer dress. "Outside," I said, "to wait for the cops. Since that's apparently how this ends. You can't just leave after assaulting someone." "He swung first," I replied. I defended myself. "Your mother got knocked over because he lost his balance." Everyone looked toward the far end of the table. My brother-in-law lifted his head slowly. "He threw the first punch," he said. "I saw it." Her sister stared at him like he'd just committed treason. "You're supposed to be on my side." "I'm on the side of what happened." I stepped over the ex, who was still sitting in gravy, breathing like his body was trying to reboot. "This isn't over," her mother screamed as I reached the door. "You'll pay for this." I turned around once. She was still on the floor, covered in turkey. Her daughter stood stiff with rage. Her son-in-law wasn't even trying to hide his smile anymore. And my wife was standing there, phone in hand, tears falling, not defending anyone, just watching. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. Then I walked out into the cold. I texted Erin. "Might need you tonight." "What happened?" "Punched her ex. Her mom is wearing the turkey. Cops are on the way. 3 dots. Gone. Back again. On my way. Don't say anything." The officers arrived about 15 minutes later. Calm. Professional. They took statements inside while I sat on the porch, breathing steam into the air. The ex claimed I attacked him. Her mother backed him up. Her sister echoed it. My wife said nothing. Then my brother-in-law spoke again. He got in his face, he said evenly. Insulted him. Poked his chest. Swung first. 1 punch. Then he fell into my mother-in-law. The officers exchanged a look. One of them pulled me aside. Conflicting statements. "He's got a visible mark. Even if he started it, someone's spending the night with us." I nodded. "Do what you need to do." The cuffs clicked shut. As they drove me away, I saw her mother standing in the doorway, still faintly orange from the cranberry sauce she'd missed washing off. There was stuffing in her hair. My wife was behind her, crying. I didn't feel bad. Funny how being arrested can feel like freedom when you've been stuck for years. Erin was waiting at the station in sweatpants and a hoodie, holding bail money like it was a grocery list item. "Charges are light," he said as we walked out. "You'll be fine. Thanks for coming." Are you kidding? Every dinner with her family looked like a slow death. At least this one ended with fireworks. In the car, he glanced over. "So, what now?" I opened my phone and scrolled to a number I'd saved months ago and hoped I'd never use. Now I stopped pretending. That night, I didn't go home. Didn't want to look at the place where I'd spent 2 years explaining away disrespect. At Erin's place, I sat on the couch and made calls. First call, a divorce attorney. "I need to file immediately," I said. "I have a prenup. Infidelity clause. Financial clause. Both violated." Second call, my bank. Locked the joint account. Opened a new one. Redirected my paycheck. Third call, building management. The lease was in my name. I made sure no changes could be made without my approval. By 2 in the morning, the shock had burned off and all that was left was clarity. The next day, while my wife was teaching a class, I went back to the apartment. I took what was mine. Furniture from before the marriage. My work setup. Electronics. Books. Tools. The espresso machine I bought with my first bonus. Everything I'd brought into the relationship. I left behind the things she'd shoved into closets because they didn't match the energy. I found a box on the top shelf. Wedding photos. Letters. Ticket stubs. I put it by the door. She could keep the memories. Then I changed every password. Every subscription. Every access point. 1 hour of work, and she was locked out of the life I'd been paying for. She texted me that afternoon. You embarrassed me. You assaulted him. Not are you okay? Not he swung first. Not I'm sorry. I didn't reply. By evening, the tone shifted. The silence is toxic. You're blocking growth. You owe my mother an apology. I saved the message. My attorney laughed when he read it. We filed on Monday. 2 days later, building security called me. She's back in the courtyard, they said. Barefoot again. Candles. Crystals. Of course she was. When I went downstairs, she was standing in another circle, bigger this time. Papers in her hand. Candles labeled with our names. She smiled like serenity was a switch she could flip. I was hoping the universe would guide you here. The universe didn't, I said. Building management did. She started chanting about energetic loops and returning intentions. I handed her my attorney's card. All communication goes through him. She stared at it, then held the divorce papers over a candle. I'm sending this back. I looked at security. If she lights anything, call it in. Then I looked at her. Paperwork doesn't care about vibes. She cried. Asked me to stay. Said she loved me. You love not being alone, I said. That's different. And I walked away. Behind me, she kept whispering affirmations into the cold. Some people grow. Some people light candles at consequences and call it healing. 10 minutes after I went back upstairs, Erin texted again. She's still outside. Security says she tried to hand your divorce papers back like they were junk mail. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. That afternoon, I met with my attorney in person. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no patience for nonsense. He skimmed the prenup, nodded, then leaned back. How long married? 2 years. Kids? No. Joint assets? 1 checking account. Already locked. He raised an eyebrow. You're ahead of the curve. I told him about Thanksgiving. About the texts. About the unexplained transfer from our joint account that I'd noticed months earlier but never pushed on because she said questioning it was fear-based. How much? $15,000. He didn't smile, but he looked pleased. That matters, he said. Unauthorized transfer over the threshold triggers the financial infidelity clause. Combined with emotional involvement with the ex, this gets efficient. We filed the paperwork the following Monday. By Wednesday, the cracks widened. While gathering documents, I opened my old laptop to download tax files. She'd used it recently to help her sister with paperwork and never logged out. Her downloads folder was still there. Bank statements, credit card balances, past due notices, all in her sister's name. Behind the polished posts and curated photos was a mess. Max cards, high-interest loans, a mortgage barely being held together. The $15,000 my wife transferred, it had gone straight into plugging holes. The woman who lectured me about stability was one missed payment from collapse. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Then I found the emails. A thread between my wife and her ex months old. Not explicit, but clear. Late-night messages. Emotional dependency. The kind of language people use when they're already halfway out the door. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I stayed, she'd written. You're my future, he replied. That was enough. My attorney subpoenaed the rest. 2 days later, my wife was served. She called me immediately. How could you do this? She cried. After everything we've been through. You did this, I said calmly. I'm just responding. She tried pivoting. Said Thanksgiving was a test. Said the universe sent her ex to show her something she needed to heal. You don't heal by lying, I said. You don't heal by sneaking money out of joint accounts. She went quiet. I was emotionally lonely, she said finally. There it is, I replied. My fault again. I ended the call. A week later, Erin sent me another picture. She was back in the courtyard. This time, the setup was bigger. More candles. More crystals. Printed screenshots from manifestation pages. 2 tall candles labeled with our names in black marker. Like writing it down made it binding. Security watched from the doorway like they were bracing for a boss fight. She saw me and smiled with forced calm. I was hoping you'd feel the pull. I felt the email, I said. From building management. She launched into a speech about closing energetic loops and returning harmful intentions. Held the divorce papers like they were cursed. The prenup was signed under a lower frequency, she said. We were different people then. You violated it, I replied. Frequency doesn't matter. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded document titled Intention Agreement. Bullet points about trust, growth, abundance. You want me to trade a legal contract for that? I asked. It's not about control, she said. It's about energy. I handed her my attorney's card again. No more direct contact. Her mask cracked. If you do this, she said, voice shaking, you're blocking your own happiness. I'm not, I replied. I already stopped doing that. She cried. Asked me to stay. Said she loved me. You love not being alone, I repeated. That's different. I turned and walked away. Some people learn. Some people double down on fantasy. That same evening, I got a text from someone unexpected. My brother-in-law. Can we meet? I need to talk. We met for coffee the next day. He looked different. Alert. Like someone who'd finally woken up. I'm filing too, he said quietly. I saw everything at dinner. Not just the fight. The setup. The lies. The finances. He slid papers across the table. More proof. More debts. More emails. And then the final piece. An email chain between his wife and my wife's ex weeks before Thanksgiving. Mom's on board. We'll do it at dinner. If he blows up, she sees he's unstable. If he stays quiet, she sees he's weak. Either way, comparison does the work. They'd choreographed it. The comments. The toast. The bragging. I sent everything to my attorney. That was the end. By late spring, the divorce was finalized. Prenup held. She kept her car and her personal belongings. Nothing else. The assault charge was dropped. Too many witnesses. Too much consistency. I wasn't done, though. Civil court is quieter, slower, and much less forgiving. I sued the ex. 8 months later, he settled. Not enough to ruin him. Enough to hurt. I donated half to a local boxing program. The rest went into savings. A placeholder fund, if you will. The fallout continued. Her sister lost her job. HR finally acted on the complaints that had been buried for years. The ex was let go shortly after. Performance issues. Short fuse. No safety net. My brother-in-law's divorce took longer. Audits. Custody. But he kept the house. And his peace. And me? I'm good. Debt-free. Drama-free. Promoted. Met someone new. Grounded. Practical. No crystals. No rituals. Just real conversation. She asked about my last Thanksgiving once. That sounds like a story, she said. It is, I replied. Just not one I rush to tell. Because sometimes, the best ending isn't revenge. It's consequences applied evenly. The quiet afterward was the strangest part. Once the paperwork was signed and the court dates were set, the chaos didn't explode the way I expected it to. It thinned out. Like smoke after a fire. Still there if you breathe too deep, but no longer choking. My wife tried reaching out through friends first. Casual check-ins disguised as concern. She's worried about you. She just wants closure. I told everyone the same thing. Closure is what the judge signed. She didn't like that. Next came the emails. Long ones. Emotional ones. Pages of reflection and selective accountability. She talked about growth, about lessons, about how painful transformation can be. Not once did she say sorry for lying. Not once did she acknowledge the setup. Not once did she mention the money. My attorney advised silence. I listened. Discovery moved fast. Faster than she expected. The subpoenaed messages filled in the gaps. Screenshots became threads. Threads became timelines. Late-night check-ins turned into emotional reliance. Complaints about me turned into fantasies about what could have been. She tried reframing it during mediation. It was support, she said. I wasn't cheating. The mediator didn't argue. He just looked at the prenup. The document didn't care what she called it. The financial piece hurt her more. The transfer to her sister had been clean. One click. No note. No discussion. No repayment plan. $15,000 gone while I was being lectured about abundance and trust. She claimed it was an emergency. My attorney asked for proof. There was none. The prenup did the rest. When it became clear she wasn't walking away with what she expected, the tone changed again. Now it was anger. I started getting messages accusing me of cruelty, of weaponizing legality, of punishing her for outgrowing me. She said I was cold. I thought that was funny. Cold would have been staying. Cold would have been absorbing disrespect and calling it love. Cold would have been letting someone rewrite reality while draining my account. This was just boundaries enforced. Meanwhile, the ex tried saving face. He reached out through a mutual acquaintance, asking if we could talk man to man. I declined. He tried again after the civil suit was filed. Offered to apologize. Offered to explain. Offered to settle quietly. The emails from Thanksgiving planning made that impossible. Public record has a way of clarifying intentions. When he finally agreed to settle, He asked if we could keep the amount low. I don't have it like people think, he admitted. I already knew. The settlement hit his account harder than the punch ever did. Money has a way of making lessons stick. I never heard from him again. My wife moved out quietly. No dramatic goodbye. No final confrontation. She took her clothes, her books, her crystals. She left the candles. I threw them out. Her mother tried calling once. Left a voicemail filled with outrage and moral superiority. I deleted it without listening to the end. Some bridges don't deserve closure. They deserve distance. Spring came. Life stabilized. Work got better. Focus sharpened when the background noise disappeared. I stopped dreading holidays. Stopped rehearsing conversations in my head before family events that weren't even mine. The promotion came in February. Senior role. Better hours. More autonomy. The irony wasn't lost on me. The stability they mocked ended up being the foundation. Aaron noticed the change before I did. You look lighter, he said one night over drinks. Like you dropped a backpack you didn't know you were carrying. He wasn't wrong. I started sleeping better. Eating better. Training again. The boxing gym felt different now. Less like stress relief. More like routine. Discipline without chaos. That's where I met her. Not during training. At the smoothie bar next door. She laughed at my clumsy attempt to open a stuck fridge door and offered to help. Her name was Hannah. Physical therapist. Practical. Direct. On our third date, she asked about my last relationship. I told her the short version. She listened without interrupting. Without diagnosing. Without reframing my experience into a lesson for herself. When I finished, she nodded once. That sounds exhausting, she said. I'm glad you left. That was it. No advice. No judgment. No spiritual metaphors. Just acknowledgement. Later, she asked about Thanksgiving. I hesitated. She smiled. You don't have to tell me. I can wait. I told her anyway. By the time I got to the turkey part, she was laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. That might be the most poetic thing I've ever heard, she said. Fake watch, real consequences. We didn't rush anything. No promises about forever. No declarations about destiny. Just consistency. Respect. Normal arguments that ended with conversations instead of candles. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think back to that dinner. The setup. The smug smiles. The certainty that I'd either fold or explode. They were wrong about one thing. I didn't snap. I chose myself. And that choice kept paying dividends long after the noise stopped. The last loose ends unraveled quietly. That surprised me the most. After all the drama, the candles, the screaming, the court filings and whispered threats, the ending didn't come with fireworks. It came with emails stamped final, signatures that looked smaller than they should have, and a calendar date circled in red that passed without incident. The divorce became official on a Thursday morning. No ceremony, no speech, no emotional send-off. Just a confirmation from my attorney and a short line at the bottom. Case closed. The prenup held exactly as written. She walked away with her car, her clothes, and the personal items she brought into the marriage. No alimony. No claims on my savings. No leverage left to negotiate with. She tried one last time. An email sent late at night. Long careful. Written like someone who had rehearsed it in their head a dozen times. She said she hoped I'd someday understand. She said she was still healing. She said she wished things had gone differently. She didn't ask to come back. She asked to be remembered kindly. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. But because silence was finally the most honest answer. The civil case wrapped up a few months later. The ex tried delaying. Tried renegotiating. Tried playing the victim when he realized those emails would be read aloud if it went to trial. Eventually, he folded. The settlement hit my account on a quiet Monday morning. No satisfaction rush. No victory lap. Just confirmation that actions have weight. I donated half that money the same week. The rest went straight into savings. No purchases. No celebrations. I didn't need a trophy. The ripple effects kept moving long after my part was done. Her sister's carefully curated life unraveled publicly and then quietly disappeared. No more luxury posts. No more captions about hustle and success. Her accounts went dark. The ex bounced jobs. No announcements. No promotions. Just LinkedIn updates that never quite explained why he was seeking new opportunities again. My former brother-in-law finalized his divorce near the end of summer. He kept the house. Primary custody. Peace he hadn't had in years. We met for coffee one last time before he moved closer to his parents. Thank you, he said. Watching you walk away showed me it was possible. I told him the truth. It's not courage. It's exhaustion reaching its limit. Life settled into something quieter after that. Not perfect. Not cinematic. Just stable. Work stayed busy, but manageable. I stopped measuring myself against imaginary standards. Stopped trying to prove I was enough to people who benefited from me believing I wasn't. Hannah and I took things slow. No grand declarations. No future casting on the third date. We built something boring in the best way. Mutual respect. Clear communication. Disagreements that didn't turn into moral judgments. One night, months later, she asked again about Thanksgiving. "You sure you don't mind telling it now?" she asked, smiling. So I did. I told her about the invitation, the comments, the fake watch, the punch, the turkey, the police lights. She listened quietly, then shook her head. "They wanted you small," she said, "and they were shocked when you refused." That stuck with me, because that's what it was in the end. Not jealousy, not competition, control. They wanted compliance disguised as humility, gratitude for disrespect, silence framed as maturity. They expected me to sit there and absorb it because that's what I'd always done. They didn't plan for consequences. Sometimes I replay that night in my head. Not the punch, the moment before it. The realization that I didn't have to prove anything. That I didn't have to win their approval or earn my seat at a table that was built to make me feel less than. I walked out of that house with handcuffs on. And somehow, that was the freest I'd felt in years. Now, when Thanksgiving rolls around, I don't dread it. Last year, Hannah and I cooked together. Burned the stuffing. Laughed about it. Ate pie straight from the tin. No audience. No performances. Just peace. And that's how I know I made the right choice. Not because I won, but because my life stopped feeling like a negotiation. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, hit subscribe. New stories are coming, and I'll see you in the next one.